how the hell did Donald Trump figure out the mainstream media is the fringe and the fringe is now the mainstream? How the hell did Donald Trump figure out? I mean, Joe Rogan is obvious, right? Like, we knew the guy had a big audience. It's not like we were like stunned, but like, how the hell was he, the 78-year-old guy who doesn't even have a computer and still like writes handwritten notes? How did he become the guy who cracked the code on, to
But
your point, running a cultural, I don't even want to say campaign, running
it's a
a
it was a movement.
cultural
Look,
movement, heading a cultural movement versus a
everybody,
campaign?
every one of your people knows Elon. Listen,
Yeah.
yeah. So,
Yep.
so I mean, everybody keeps. I mean, the problem is you have a framework in your mind that how can Donald Trump? How can Donald Trump? How can Donald Trump? Guys, can we cut it out? Donald Trump is not an idiot. Donald Trump. Let me just be very clear. Donald Trump is smarter than me, you, and
Yep.
all critics. You know why we know? Because he has the White House, the Senate, the House, the
Totally agree.
support, the popular vote. He has a massive media ecosystem bigger than the mainstream built around him and for him, and a religious fervor and a political movement around him. And his best buddy is the richest person in the history of the world, and the most relevant Kennedy is with him. This dude is a phenomenon. He is the most powerful human on earth and in our lifetime, and we're still saying, well, how was this guy? We look like idiots to ordinary
You're
people. He
you're
is.
totally right.
All right, guys, so we got to react to a pretty hilarious clip of Stephen A. Smith acting surprised that the so-called right-wing conspiracy theories were true. Now, Stephen A. Smith is an NPC, right? Let's keep it 100, okay? He's trying to get into politics, and Stephen A. is finding out what a lot of people realized years ago, especially when Trump first ran for office, which is that a vast majority of the so-called right-wing conspiracies are true, right? They're just delayed facts. The mainstream liberal media comes out here and lies and says, oh, these things are not true, okay, until they are at some point in time in the future proven to be correct, okay? We have so many of these things that have happened over the past 8 years or so. I think most people have waken up to the fact that the so-called conspiracy theories, when the media says that something is a conspiracy from the right, that means that it's true, right? And the liberal media, when they say something is factual, that means that it's a conspiracy, right? Like, for example, when it comes to Hunter Biden's laptop, the liberal media claimed that this was Russian disinformation, okay? That you shouldn't believe it, just to admit 2 to 3 years later that, the Hunter Biden laptop story was real, okay? When it comes to Joe Biden and his mental deterioration, right-wing conspiracy, just to later find out that no, Joe Biden actually is mentally deteriorating, and all of those videos of Joe Biden clearly losing his mind in the middle of meetings, on stage, with world leaders, they weren't cheap fakes. They were real. They weren't out of context. It was actually Joe Biden losing his mind. Okay, these are the same people that claim that there is no invasion at the border, just to find out that, there in fact is an invasion. Okay, and what Stephen A. Smith is going to find out here is that the so-called right-wing conspiracies about January 6th and FBI informants being involved, at the very least being active and present at the Capitol as the riot was taking place, is in fact true. Now, if you read the mainstream liberal media headlines that reference a recent watchdog report that came out from the DOJ, you would think the exact opposite, right? Because basically what they're trying to put out there is that, oh, the right-wing conspiracies about January 6th aren't true. There were no undercover FBI agents present at that day during the attack on the Capitol, right? This is what the headlines are saying. But if you actually read beyond the headlines, if you actually read the report did in fact find that some of the FBI's confidential human sources, aka CHSs, were present in the crowds, including 3 who were tasked with monitoring domestic terrorism subjects. The Inspector General also found that along with the CHSs, there were 23 others who came to DC in connection with the rally. 4 of them entered the Capitol and 13 entered the restricted security perimeter set up around the building. Yeah, so I want you guys to understand. The media is saying that, no. the right-wing conspiracy about FBI agents being involved with January 6th is not true, while at the same time, when you read the fine print, when you read the articles, they admit that, no, actually, it is true, right? They were there, and they were involved. They entered the Capitol. They were in the crowd, that they were involved that day in some capacity, essentially, again, proving the so-called right-wing conspiracies true. Now, Stephen A. is going to react to the fact that the liberal media has lied to him once again, and it's pretty hilarious, right? But hey, this is a part of the process of the NPCs waking up and realizing that the mainstream liberal media lies, right? That you cannot trust these people. So without further ado, let's get into it.
I want to get into some politics before we get on out of here, as we've now entered the final month of Joe Biden's presidency. And for the sake of argument, it hasn't been a good one. The Democrats lost the White House, Senate, and House in the November election. Meanwhile, this week, FBI Director Christopher Wray announced plans to resign at the end of the Biden administration as President-elect Donald Trump takes office in January. The news comes amidst a bombshell report from the Justice Department that revealed the FBI had at least 26 confidential informants on the ground when the Capitol was stormed on January 6, 2021. The report says most of the informants engaged in illegal activity during the chaos. The Justice Department says only 3 of its 26 informants present had been instructed to observe potential domestic terrorist suspects on the day of the riot. The rest of the 23 appeared to have gone to the Capitol on their own accord. Upon hearing news of the report, Vice President-elect J.D. Vance posted the following on X, quote, "For those keeping score at home, this was labeled a dangerous conspiracy theory months ago," end quote. So 23 folks for the FBI were in the crowd. And we're just finding that out. Didn't hear anything about that for the election. Didn't hear anything about that when the quote-unquote insurrection was broached by Vice President Kamala Harris as the Democratic nominee, by President Biden before her, by Democrats in both the House and the Senate as they articulated the belief that Donald Trump was a danger to democracy and using this as a profound, illuminating bullet point to make that case. And now here we are yet again finding even more evidence to Donald Trump's claims when he articulated that the process is rigged, the Democrats are this or that, they're talking about us, but look at what they do. We don't know all the details. It's a report. Justice Department comes out with this. That's not my big issue. My big issue is that I'm really, really sick and tired of every time I turn around finding something else that the Democrats have lied about or downplayed or misrepresented along the way. Where's the $1.5 billion that was given to the Democratic Party? Where is it? Where'd the money go? Why was Oprah given $2.5 million? Why was Al Sharpton's National Action Network given that much money? Before interviews, by the way. Why? I think it was $500K for the National Action Network. Why? I want to be clear. I don't have any problem with the National Action Network taking that money because they don't have a lot of money. I have more of a problem with Oprah taking $2.5 million when she's worth over $1 billion. But speaking to us as if her heart and soul was so immersed in supporting Kamala Harris. Well, then why didn't you do it for free?
Yo, I can only laugh. I can only laugh at clowns like Stephen A. Smith, because Stephen A., he's one of these people where he's almost there, but he just can't let himself get there. You know what I'm saying? This is the same guy who every single time he does a video critical of Democrats, admitting that the Democrats are bad, that they're not good, that they are doing a terrible job, he always has to come out and say, well, I'm not voting for Trump because I believe that he's a threat to democracy and that he may cause civil war. But yet, he admits that he's been lied to by the Democrats. He's been lied to. So if you've been lied to about all of these things, then why is it that you would believe what they're saying about Trump? The biggest lie they have told about Trump is that he's a so-called threat to democracy, that he's going to start civil war and that he's Hitler. That's the biggest lie, which to me seems to be what Stephen A. Smith has failed for. Now, he's saying all the other lies and admitting that, yeah, these things are lies. So when are you going to admit, Stephen A., that you were bamboozled, hoodwinked, tricked, led astray, just like everybody else, when it comes to the biggest lies about Trump? That's what I want to see. I want to see this guy come out here and say, yeah, I regret my vote for Kamala Harris. That's what I want to hear. Because Stephen A. is just making himself look sillier and sillier, being one of these individuals that voted for Kamala Harris, but is now coming out and admitting that, hey, yeah, I was lied to, right? I was tricked. I'm just saying. Normal, regular, everyday people figured this out years ago that we were being lied to about January 6th. We were not getting all the information in regards to what happened that day and why it happened. Normal people figured this out. Stephen A. Smith, who is a very highly paid sports journalist that's diving into politics, it took him much longer to figure out the things that the so-called conspiracy theories figured out years ago. That, again, the Democrat Party is a party of liars, right? The Democrat Party is running a whole scam on half of America. Kamala Harris's campaign was a Ponzi scheme. She raised a whole bunch of money just to get her friends paid. And Stephen A. didn't get a dime, right? At least I don't know. Maybe he did, maybe he didn't. I'm just saying that Stephen A., everybody else got paid for their endorsement of Kamala Harris, for them to come out here and say, vote for Kamala, but you didn't, right? You didn't get paid for it, at least as far as I know. And you continuously told your audience, yeah, I voted for Kamala. I'm not voting for Trump. Yeah, this guy, he looks like a fool. He really does. But I appreciate him waking up. He just looks like a fool because he won't come out and just say that he made a mistake by openly saying that he wasn't going to support Trump, which means that most likely he voted for Kamala Harris.
I'm just asking these things because I think it's important. And I think that the time has arrived where we have to stop letting stuff go all the time, particularly when it comes to the left. I mean, I see Republicans like Megyn Kelly or Officer Tatum or Candace Owens or, the Sean Hannitys of the world. You know what I'm getting tired of? I'm getting to the Democratic Party. You know what I'm getting really pissed off about? I'm getting really ticked off at every time they open their mouth about something pertaining to y'all, they seem right. I would love to argue with Sean Hannity. How can I? Do you know what Sean Hannity used to do to me when I told him Kamala Harris had a chance? He'd laugh. Like literally, genuinely giggle. He'd go on TV and put on his straight face to y'all. You got to be concerned. This election could go either way. He laughed. He wasn't concerned about her.
Yo, this is hilarious. This is hilarious. Yes, Stephen A., nobody who actually understands politics and that's really paying attention was concerned about Kamala Harris, right? I mean, I was telling you guys a month out from the election, I was like, yeah, if the election is held today, I think Trump's winning. And I held on to that basically for a vast majority of the presidential election season, right? I kept telling you guys, yeah, I think Trump is going to win. I think Trump is going to win. I think Trump is going to win. The only people who actually really thought Kamala Harris had a chance were people who got fooled like Stephen A. Smith. Again, what he's mad about is that he got fooled. That's what he's upset about. He listened to the propaganda. He believed all of the fake polls from the mainstream liberal media. He was listening to all of these Holly weirdos that came out and supported Kamala thinking that she had real momentum. But again, you can just pick up from the actions of her campaign, from the fact that she had no real support, like actual real support. Everything was manufactured, scripted. You can tell that she didn't really have the juice that they claimed that she had. She didn't have Obama energy. But Stephen A. Smith, he bought into it, hook, line, and sinker. And now he's upset. Now he's upset. He's upset that he got tricked. Amazing. Absolutely amazing.
Before I called out Biden, he was calling Biden Sleepy Joe. What's percolating on social media today? Just go and look at it, y'all. Joe Biden is caught napping at an African summit in Angola for at least a full minute. They didn't say whether he was snoring or not. That's about all that was missing. But he was clearly asleep.
Again, these videos were out for months and months and months, years really, before all this. And the media lied, said, "No, that's not true." Right? That's not true. Joe Biden was asleep. What are you talking about? He was resting his eyes. The camera angle was off. Right? It's a cheap fake. They're at the point now where they don't even deny it. The liberal media, when Joe Biden got caught sleeping with those African leaders, which, by the way, if Trump got caught sleeping at the table with African leaders, they say this is racism, right? He clearly doesn't respect black leadership. This is what they be saying. Joe Biden does it, though. This time around, they didn't even try to gaslight it. People say, nah, that wasn't real. Don't believe your lying eyes, right? No. They just came out and said, yeah, Joe Biden was sleeping, right? What else is new? Amazing. Absolutely amazing. It shouldn't have to get to this point, guys. That's my biggest problem with these people. It shouldn't have to get to this point where you realize that you're being lied to by the Democrat Party.
I'm not going to pardon my son. I want to state for the record, I have no problem with him pardoning Hunter Biden. I had a problem with him trying to act like it was unjust what was being done in pursuit of getting after my son because they wanted to get to me. All you had to say was, I'm pardoning my son because he's my son. You couldn't just say that, though. You know why you couldn't say that, President Biden? Because you had been telling us it was the last thing that you were going to do. And why did you say that? Why did Karine Jean-Pierre, remember how she said he will absolutely not pardon his son? It's all over social media right now. They kept saying it. It's everywhere. How many times did the Democrats tell us no one's above the law? No one's above the law. No one's above the law. Nancy Pelosi, Hakeem Jeffries, Elizabeth Warren, who makes you feel like your soul is going to hell if you don't agree with her. Inconsistency after inconsistency after inconsistency. We can argue policies. We can argue politics all day long. But the Democrats worked really, really diligently to make the case that the right had a monopoly on insidious, evil tendencies, corrupt tendencies, duplicitous, hypocritical, untruthful tendencies. And every time they made those accusations, we turn around and find out that at least some of them are guilty of the same shit.
Yeah, Stephen A. It's called projection, right? You figured out that the Democrats project. That's the only thing they're actually good at. The only thing they're good at is projection. Everything they say about Republicans and Trump is simply just an admission of what they're doing themselves, right? That's all it is. Again, smart people realized this a long time ago, right? NPCs, they're just realizing it, right? They're just getting on board. And the crazy part about this, guys, is that I guarantee you, I would bet a significant amount of money. I'll bet every dime in my bank account, which is not a lot, right? I'll bet every dime that Stephen A., if the election was held today, would still turn around and vote for Kamala Harris, right? Knowing all the things that he knows, if the election was held today, he'd still vote for Democrats. That's the sad part about it, guys. That's the sad part. What's even sadder than Stephen A. being so slow and catching up with reality and realizing that the Democrat Party and the liberal media has lied for the last 8 years straight about Trump and Republicans is that knowing this, I don't think he would change his behavior. Not his voting behavior. I don't think so. But then again, who knows? I don't know who he voted for. He claims that he didn't vote for Trump, but he can't actually come out here as a black man working at a Disney network and say that he voted for Trump with a straight face, okay? Not without potentially losing his job. So I don't know. I just don't understand how you realize all this stuff, how you can clearly see the corruption of the Democrat Party. You can clearly admit that they have not performed well, that the results aren't good, that the country's in a bad place. And all these things that you're concerned about when it comes to Trump, they're doing themselves, right? How can you realize all that and still turn around and support Democrats? I don't get it. I don't understand it. So I don't know, man. I just found this to be like comedy to me. At some point, Stephen A. will get the cojones to, come out and maybe openly support Republicans. I'm not entirely sure if that'll ever happen, okay? Or to support the right side. But until then, he's going to continue to look like a fool, right, with these takes. Okay, I appreciate the honesty, Stephen A., but again, you look like a fool. So let me know what you guys think. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Most importantly, share a Black conservative perspective. Peace.